Patty time?
It's Patty time. All right.
Let's do it.
This guy's been in the league 12 years. He's won a championship. He's a FIBA legend. He is, I'll tell him this to his face, but he's literally one of my favorite players. Just signed with the Brooklyn Nets on a 2-year deal. Patty Mills, let's go.
You got your cue, not me.
Did you fuck up Tyrese on purpose?
No, man. I'm just trying to teach him how to be on time.
Vet move.
I mean this sincerely. Like I just said this, but there's like players that you grew up watching that you love. For me, it was Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, obviously Michael Jordan. Then there's like your contemporaries that you acknowledge are like the greatest players in the world: Steph Curry, LeBron James, etc. And then you have sort of your favorite players, the guys you really look at and admire, and you're that guy for me. You really are. You're one of my favorite players. This is a huge honor for me to have you on the show, and also so everybody knows, this guy literally just traveled on like 6 flights around the world and got here 3 days ago and still is doing the show.
Jet lag, just for you, mate.
So we really appreciate it. We were with one of your teammates with Australia, Matisse Thybulle, yesterday. Great kid, and we had this discussion about FIBA Patty versus NBA Patty. So I'm just going to go through a few things here. So 2012, 2016 Olympics, you averaged a little over 21 a game. 2019 World Cup, you averaged 23 a game. You had 42 points in the bronze medal game. You were on the all-Olympic team, five best players in the world basically at the Olympics. What is it that's different about Patty FIBA versus Patty NBA?
Well, I grow a few inches when I put the green and gold on, number 1. That helps. Still can't dunk, though. I don't know. I think it's, you're obviously representing your country. And there's a lot that comes with that, a lot of passion, a lot of pride. And being able to be in that position, I think, you know, you carry the weight of your country on your shoulders. And I think I enjoy that challenge, and I enjoy, you know, being able to perform on a big stage. But I think, yeah, the biggest difference is getting to drop 40 in an Olympic medal game. That's probably the biggest difference.
I want to ask about that, like the significance of that to you personally, and what it means to, you know, the whole country of Australia as well, you know, to win a bronze medal.
Yeah, well, it's the first time that an Australian men's team has ever won a medal, so for us to be able to do it, you know, really, it means a lot, obviously, you know, for the 65 years or whatever that we've been trying to get over the line, we haven't been able to, so that's number 1. And I think, you know, being the first Indigenous person to be the flag bearer for our country. And there's a lot of pride and all of that, and representing your country and your people and where you're from. So I think both of those, to do both of those in the one Olympics is, yeah, I'm still trying to come down from it all, I think.
We talked with Drew a couple weeks ago about the difference in the game between the two, between the NBA and FIBA. Do you find any specific strategy points that will you play differently at all? Will you prepare differently?
Nah, not really. I mean, there are a few little rule changes. You know, stuff like being able to swat the ball off the rim when it's bouncing around, so you need to swish it. No, but I think the preparation is still the same. I think it is very physical. In that sense, it's fast as well, 10-minute quarters as well, so it's the game goes by fairly quickly. But I think the mindset and preparation is still the same, yeah.
So this brings me to sort of a broader topic about NBA players who have long careers, like you, like myself, who ultimately embrace their role. Because I think it'd be very easy, and a lot of European players, a lot of overseas players that are amazing on their national teams, amazing in EuroLeague, they come over and they're not Steph, they're not LeBron, and they can't accept that. Can you just sort of talk about that mindset shift you have to have when you come over here and you're sort of like getting pigeonholed into a role on the team you're on in the NBA versus I get to take 18 shots a game when I'm on my national team?
Yeah, I think for me being spending a decade with Coach Pop and San Antonio and obviously the teammates that I had there, it's the understanding of what can you do for the betterment of the team. And I think that was where I learned a lot to come in and figure out, well, what's my one piece that I can do that's going to make the team great. And it's something that's different than what Tim Duncan does, different than what Tony Parker does and Manu Ginobili. And finding that out myself and being able to implement it, I think you feel the impact and you feel those guys feed off it. So I think it's just understanding like how to win, what you need to do to win, how to bring the group together. And I think that you got to throw your ego out the door when you're understanding the purpose and winning and championships and all that. And when you get a locker room that is all on the same page like that, it's fun basketball.
Was there ever a point in time in your career where you were sort of pining for a larger role?
Oh yeah, I think you always want to get better. You always strive to get better and want more. I think that's the natural ability of us as athletes. And after spending 10 years in San Antonio and learning what I've learned, I think, turning the page to a new chapter now, I'm really excited for. And I think that everything that I've learned I can implement now in this new chapter. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you about the new chapter in a second. I do want to just mention, in regards to the Olympics, there was this amazing celebratory video of you guys singing, drinking all sorts of alcoholic beverages in the locker room. The sort of knock, or not the knock, but the sort of stereotype of an Australian male is that they like to drink heavily, party, and beat each other up. Is that accurate?
You're not wrong. No, all for good fun and games, but yeah, as you can imagine, a hell of a victory that we came back into the village. It's pissing down rain, 12:30 at night. Everyone's quiet. It's the second last day in the village, and we walk around the corner and the whole Australian team is down at the bottom of our building welcoming us back, playing Land Down Under, and here we come, fist pumping, and it was probably one of the top 3 highlights of the whole campaign. Yeah.
What was the scene like for you growing up as an Indigenous Australian? Because obviously, you set the stage for someone who followed you since then. Yeah,
well, I'm an island boy at heart. I grew up playing, no shoes on the dirt, and a hoop that my grandfather built for me, and then I'd go and fish and spearfish, and then eat what we catch, and that was my sort of upbringing. So, to know where I've got to now, they're, I guess Indigenous Australians, Black Australians as they're known. The success rate for really anything in life isn't great. And yes, we have a lot of Indigenous Australians that succeed in their given fields, but basketball isn't any different than that. Indigenous Australians only make up 3% of the whole population. So for me to try and achieve what I can in my field, I think is can be inspiring for everyone back home to at least dream it, right? Because you can't, you got to see it to believe it, and I think that's the role model that I try to be.
There's been a few articles written on some of the racism that you experienced growing up. There was an incident, I think you were at the free throw line in Cleveland a few years back, where a fan said something. That fan ultimately got a lifetime ban from the NBA. Can you just talk a little bit about that growing up, though, in Australia, and what that was like in your formative years?
Yeah, so by the time, I went to school because of what my parents done for work. They worked within the Australian government, specifically to try and better the lives of Indigenous people. So moved down to Canberra, the capital of Australia, the DC equivalent, I like to say. And there I went into school, so out of my environment that I'm used to and seeing, friends and family and everyone that essentially looked like me, now the environment changes. And I remember walking in the first day of school, me and Mum, you know, walked me to class, and the biggest guy in the room just walked straight up to me and uppercut straight to the guts and took all the wind out of me just for no other reason. And who knows what the reason was then, but it was like I was in for a roller coaster of a childhood, I guess, with these sorts of incidents. So look, I think, you know, the values that I learnt from my parents and my families was how to overcome that, and how to do it in a way that you know, you can learn from it, you can take these things in, you can acknowledge it, and build your character almost. So I think, you know, sitting on a stage here in Brooklyn, you know, I've overcome a lot of things that has helped, you know, fuel the fire, I guess, for me to achieve certain things, and yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you if that helped you at all pre-San Antonio, so post-Portland and then the lockout and everything like that. There was a question of, you know, is it going to work for you in the NBA? Do you feel like that sort of perseverance came from your childhood at all?
Yes, and even more so beyond that. And I think that's the Australian history, and not to take this down you know, too deep of a road, but that's the Australian culture, the Australian history, that it is a dark place. And, you know, I think for me and what I've been able to do is just continue to educate people on Australian history. And it's not great, but it shouldn't be swept under the rug either. But, you know, things like the stolen generation and that, which is a very, you know, but it's a part of Australian history, so it needs to be told to be able to educate people. So, you know, my mum was a part of the stolen generation, so it's perseverance from that's ingrained in the family. And I think I get all my strength from my mum because, you know, I went through a lot growing up, but nothing compared to what she went through, so, yeah.
I have one last sort of Australian related, and it's actually a two-part question. But when you guys are together and you're training for the national team, how long are you guys together?
Yeah, well, it was a weird year, so we weren't together very long. It was maybe 4 weeks.
Is it hard to be around Joe Ingles for 4 weeks straight?
I'm amazed it took this long to get to this question.
Well, try like 17 years. That's how long it's been with, you know, for me and Joe. We grow up together, and he is a character, and, you know, we're roommates, you know, all the time for the national team. This year was the first time that we weren't roommates, but very close with him. But I can tell, yeah, he's got to you a few times by the sounds of it.
Oh man, we talked a couple weeks ago, and he was asking me about joining Utah in January, and I was like, yeah, whatever, you know, just kind of gave him the thing. And like, a lot of people sent really nice messages yesterday. His message was, "You fucking lied to me."
Yeah, that's him in a nutshell right there.
That is him. So why Brooklyn? What was it about this situation and this opportunity that you were willing to leave? I mean, the culture that you helped build and the dynasty that you were a part of. Yeah,
yeah. When you put it like that, you know, you flash back to, yeah, why did I leave? No, look, I think everything that I've learned from being, you know, under Pop and Timmy, Tony and Manu, and being that bridge from, you know, what they were to now the new guys and the young guys that are there, I think, you know, there's a part of me that can still implement that. And you know, Brooklyn and the familiar faces that are around the organisation in the front office, you know, we in the locker room, I think help. But you know, I think it's you know, many reasons. But for me, it was, you know, two things that I always look at it. It's culture. You know, when the culture of Brooklyn, you know, from the music to the arts to the street arts to the food, you know, that's all the stuff I look for, because I truly believe if I can, you know, this is what I'm most excited for, if I can immerse myself in the Brooklyn culture and understand the community, that's who I'm representing, you know, that's the name across the front of the jersey, and that's what really gets me going. I feel like I play my best, so And then obviously the second part of the purpose, and the purpose is an NBA championship. And when you have that every day, and again, you get the guys together and everyone in the organization working towards that one goal, it's, it's a pretty fun feeling.
The reason you didn't get a huge applause when you talked about Brooklyn culture is because there's a lot of Philly fans in here. Just to be clear. Just to be clear.
Yeah, we get Tease back up.
I have a question about culture. And I know Tyrese wants to follow up on this. Tyrese, did you, we talk about culture with the Spurs, their big three, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan. Were you a Tony Parker fan? Did you try to emulate anything in his game? Like, I don't think people realize how good that guy was.
Well, like, I was a big LeBron fan growing up, so, like, I wasn't a big fan of this guy. But, like, yeah, man, people don't realize how good he was. Like you said, like, man, he used to give the Heat a lot of problems in the finals. Like, his floater package was ridiculous too. Like, I bet you've taken a lot away from that. And I want to ask you, like, what were your biggest takeaways from being around, Pop, the culture of the Spurs, like the big three? Like, what are your biggest takeaways from, your time there?
Yeah, the biggest one I would say is just the mentality of understanding that it is a marathon of a season, as you know, but the mentality is still strong each and every day, and what do we need to do, well and better to win an NBA championship, and the focus never drifted, and it's going to adjust as the season goes on, and adversity and all that, but I think that was there was just a focus and a strong mentality that kept the whole group together. And you do the off-court things of getting the group together and dinners and whatnot. That obviously helps. But it is a culture thing. I mean, the Spurs culture is what built a winning culture. And it was just, very grateful to be a part of it, let alone, have anything to do with it.
What were your first impressions of Pop? First time you met him?
Yeah, kind of like that, Tim, Tony, Manu talk about the fatherly figure he was to them. I'm much younger than Tony, Tim, and Manu, so he was like a grandfather figure. But look, he was, my first thought, it's a scary deal, you grow up understanding the Spurs culture and the elite winning culture that it is, and then this young black boy from Australia gets thrown in the fire, like, figure it out, mate. And that's kind of what it was, and I had to figure it out. But it was enjoyable. Look, Pop, I've got a lot to owe him and in my career and what he's done for me. But yeah, there's a bag full of stories there. But look, I've enjoyed every bit of what I've learned from him.
Feel free to share any Pop stories as they come up. As they come up, you can speak out of turn, please. But I remember I may butcher the term here, but Pop called you something like a culture driver. And in your experience with the Spurs specifically, who drives the culture? Because I think there's maybe a disconnect from casuals. I like to call it casual NBA fans casuals, but there's a disconnect about who those drivers are. It's not always the best player. Sometimes it is, and I think Tim was probably an anomaly in that. Sometimes it's the coaches, sometimes it's not, and sometimes it can be role players. But in your experience, who were the culture drivers?
Yeah, look, I think Pop's obviously the one that drives the ship over there, and having someone like Timmy who allowed Pop to be that way and coach that way is an interesting mix there that complemented both of them well, but also the organisation well. And again, it's just finding pieces of the puzzle, and again, that thing of understanding what the culture is, what the Spurs culture is, I guess, and working out ways to bring everything together. And I think, I had a bit to do with it, but I think Manu Ginobili was really the one that was a big part of that culture, and understanding the locker room and understanding what it takes to bring guys. A very knowledgeable person that cared about his teammates, cared about wanting to know them on a personal level, and he's a very special character. So I learned a lot from Manu in that sense as well.
So I called Tim an anomaly, and he's probably not an anomaly because there's a few other guys like him. And by anomalies, I mean top 5 players, top 10 players currently in the NBA. Tim was that for much of his career. Steph is that now. Giannis is that now. Jokic is that now. Luka is that now. Other than Steph, a lot of those guys are not American. And Luke and I talked about this a bunch. And there's something that happens in youth sports here. I don't know what it is. But do you think that Luka's maybe onto something there? That a lot of the best players that don't have that ego issue, that aren't making things about themselves, that are participating in driving culture, are not from America?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, that's for sure. But you see Luka and you see what he does and what he's about. You know, and again, that opportunity that you get to play for your country, represent your country, right? It's a whole nother perspective again, and a whole nother background that's brought over. That's obviously appreciated by everyone else in the organisation. So, I mean, I think there's something there for sure.
Look, we all know how crazy life can get. Meetings, errands to run, and chores to take care of. What's the secret to clearing your to-do list? A little help from DoorDash. You can get dinner, household essentials, and everything on your grocery list delivered. Look, if this past year has taught us anything, it's to savor every moment together. So spend less time prepping, shopping, and cooking, and more time with the people you love with the help of DoorDash.
Yep. Craving late night ice cream? Forgot that one key ingredient for dinner? JJ, frequently. Or maybe you just need to stock up for the week? With DoorDash, get everything in one app. With over 300,000 partners, you can support your neighborhood go-tos or choose from your favorite national restaurants like Popeyes, Chipotle, and Cheesecake Factory. Wow.
I'm a big Cheesecake Factory guy. Big Cheesecake Factory guy.
You and the whole NBA.
Ordering is easy, and your items will be left safely outside your door when you choose contactless delivery drop-off. And right now, for a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code JJ. That's 25% off up to a $10 value and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code JJ. Don't forget, that's code JJ for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change, terms apply. Badlands, the anthology series from Jake Brennan, creator and host of the award-winning music and true crime podcast Disgraceland, is back. Badlands Season 2 Sportsland launches on September 22nd with more edge-of-your-seat stories that blend hardcore history, true crime, and transgressive fiction. In Badlands Season 1 Hollywoodland, Jake told you the untold stories of Hollywood royalty. And now, with Badlands Season 2 Sportsland, Jake explores wild tales and crimes from some of the most famous athletes in the world.
He'll look at the shocking rise and fall of sports legends like Mike Tyson, Oscar Pistorius, and Aaron Hernandez. He'll also uncover some dark tales like the shocking murder of downhill skiing sensation Spider Savage, the complicated mythology of outfielder Ty Cobb, and why boxer Sonny Liston's ties to organized crime drew the ire of none other than Attorney General Robert Kennedy. Wow.
If you love true crime, sports, and Disgraceland, then you're going to love Sportsland. This sounds like a great listen. Listen to Sportsland and the shocking rise and fall of sports legends every Wednesday, everywhere podcasts are available, or binge the whole season now exclusively on Amazon Music. Hey y'all, there's some big news in shoes. Rothy's is now selling men's sneakers and men's driving loafers. You probably heard your wife, sister, mother, daughter, or friends talk about their love of Rothy's women's shoes. Well, now they've brought their sustainable materials, washable design, and innovative craftsmanship to men's shoes. Looking good and feeling great just got easier thanks to Rothy's innovative approach to shoe design. From the unbeatable comfort to the fact that you can wash them, these shoes check every box.
Plus, everything Rothy's makes is better for the planet. Rothy's men's shoes are knit with 100% recycled materials. Even the sneaker laces are made from plastic water bottles. JJ, I've worn these and they are super comfortable.
Forbes calls Rothy's men's shoes a travel must-have. And CNN says Rothy's men's shoes are, quote, comfortable to wear right out of the box. So, to help you welcome the fall season in style, Rothy's is doing something special. That's right, they gave us the chance to share this super rare opportunity with our listeners for a limited time. Right now, you can get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/JJ. That's ROTHYS.com/JJ. Head to rothys.com/JJ to find your new favorites today.
I want to play a little game of what if with you.
Oh, I love
Because
it.
that. No, but I am at the end of my career. I'm retired now, obviously. We've talked about this 3 times. And, you know, you get to the end, and you're like, you play the what-if game. You know, I think about our series in 2014, 2015. What if Chris doesn't get hurt? No, I was going to say, what if he doesn't get hurt in Game 7? And we have him healthy against Houston. But, you know, what if we don't blow that 3-1 lead? And you've been involved in some incredible what-ifs. 2013. How often do you think about that shot that Ray Allen hit?
Yeah.
Sorry to bring up a terrible subject, but I'm just curious. You have a ring, though. You at least have a ring.
What was even more so, like the shot, is brutal. I had just had surgery on my foot, so I was in street clothes on the side. What's probably even worse than that was at a point in the 4th quarter of getting pushed in the back because the security is pulling out the yellow string of tape around to block the people from storming the court, and then being like, what is this yellow tape? And then seeing the Larry O'Brien being rolled out, and it's like, we about to win this? And then sure enough, the trophy gets rolled back into the locker room and the yellow tape goes away, and we're heading to Game 7. So that was probably the feeling, even more so than the Ray Allen shot, was feeling like, oh, we're about to win this. Nope, we're not.
Did 2014 Game 5, did that feel like, obviously it's like redemption, but did it feel a little bit like removing demons?
Yeah, that transition from 2014 to 15 was unbelievable. Again, that focus and mentality, fuel to the fire coming back into that year was incredible. So now you go through that whole year of what we went to, and it was like, you know, we had fresh legs going into that series. So Game 5, redemption, all of that. Now I'm throwing things up and everything's going in this, you know, one night. And for sure it was redemption. That's what it felt like.
The other what if is in 16-17, where that was probably the Warriors' best team. They won 67 games. You guys won 61. You were, I think your plus minus, like your net differential was actually better than the Warriors that year. And you're beating the shit out of them in Game 1 in Oracle, and Zaza steps in front of Kawhi. Is that a series you ever replay in your head?
Oh yeah.
That moment?
100%. 100%. Yeah. Up however much we were up. You know, games of momentums, and that's the definition of a momentum changer when that happened and he goes down, and there was nothing that we could physically do to you know, stop that momentum. But that's one game, you know. You talk about the winning culture and all of that, and that was for sure a defining moment that when I think about it, like another one that we had.
I don't mean to bring these up, I seriously don't, to put you in a bad mood. I'm just trying to get a sense of someone towards the end. I don't want to put a number on you, but you're going into year 13. Someone towards the end who's won it and who's also had a bunch of opportunities, and how you sort of frame those moments and value those different moments.
No question. You know, to be serious for a second, it's like you learn from those moments. So yeah, I do think about it. I do replay those things in my mind. I do go back and watch certain things so I can feel what I felt back then. I think that's important because what you learn from it makes you do things differently or do things better when you get that opportunity again. So I think all of those things, Australian team too, losing to Spain in 2016 Olympics and 2019 World Cup, like all of those things you got to learn from it, because that's the only way that I think you can move forward and you can get better. So it's important to go back to those things, I think.
I was going to say the one to go back to Brooklyn for a second. Obviously, you were with Kevin this summer in Tokyo. What's it going to be like with these guys after just going into battle with them for so many different years, being teammates with them?
Yeah, well, it was unreal to be able to have the conversation with Kevin about coming to Brooklyn and just to understand how much of a pure hooper he is and talk basketball with him. But it's good. It's the game. It's understanding how big the game has, you know, gotten to around the world. But to be able to compete against, you know, him and others at that elite level on, you know, on an international stage, now to bring that same mentality that I had, that I'm sure he had for our countries, now into the same locker room. I think, again, that purpose and that driving force of what we're trying to do here and win another championship, it's exciting for sure.
All right, let's give Patty a round of applause. Thank you, man, for doing this.